Hi and welcome to my channel. In today's video I'm going to be talking to you about the common mistakes new chinchilla owners sometimes make. I am guilty of making some of these mistakes myself. Number 1. Buying unsafe and dangerous toys and accessories for your chinchilla. Unfortunately, many pet stores market items that are safe for chinchillas, but in reality they are far from it. For example, exercise balls for chinchillas. These are not great for any animal, but can really be extremely dangerous for chinchillas. These balls have very poor ventilation, and if a chinchilla was to exercise in one of these balls, they would very quickly overheat. Heat stroke can be fatal for chinchillas. They are really like little death balls. Aside from your chinchilla overheating, this is an entirely unnatural way for them to move. They are rock hoppers and prefer to hop about rather than being in a position which is bad for their spine. They are also made out of plastic, which is another big no-no for chinchillas, but I will go into detail of this later. Another unsafe item is hay balls. Chinchillas can get their legs stuck in these hanging wire hay balls that are available in a great deal of pet shops. They are really not safe. My chinchilla Bunsen actually caught her leg in an attached hay rack that was part of the cage, and she broke her leg badly and had to have it amputated. I can only imagine what it would have been like if she had been in one of these hanging balls. Another unsafe thing is toys that are made of plastic or toxic material. Another one is wheels that are far too small. A chinchilla's wheel needs to be at least 14 inches. I would recommend a Tic Tac wheel or a flying saucer. They're good options, although they are expensive, but the wheels they have in pet shops aren't big enough and they're made of plastic. Harnesses for chinchillas. Chinchillas do not need walks like dogs. Harnesses can be exceptionally dangerous for chinchillas. A chinchilla's rib cage is very, very fragile. One pull on a harness can risk breaking their rib cage. Number 2. This leads on from number 1, and it's plastic cages or plastic shelves in their cages. Chinchillas should be nowhere near plastic. Even if your chinchilla has never chewed on plastic, one night it could just decide to start gnawing. The issue with plastic is if it gets chewed and ingested, any plastic gets blocked in their intestines and they will not be able to digest it. They will get bloat and suffer a very long and painful death. Even if your chinchilla has never chewed on plastic in their cage, is it really worth the risk? You can either take out plastic shelves and replace with kiln-dried pine wood shelves, or you can cover the plastic shelves in fleece or any other plastic in the cage in fleece. This will ensure that the chinchilla can't actually get to the plastic to chew it. As I say, I've had arguments with some people that say, my chinchilla's had plastic in his cage for years and he's never ever chewed it. But in all honesty, chinchillas are funny things. One night they may just decide to start gnawing, and it's not really worth the risk. Number 3. Not providing a safe area for your chinchilla to have out of cage time. Now, I know a lot of breeders in the UK and some breeders in the US are adamant that chinchillas do not need time out of their cage and that they can live perfectly fine in their cage their entire lives. This is just my opinion, but I honestly do not believe this. I think time out of the cage is an important part of chinchilla's care, and I do believe the quality of life is greatly improved by having a different area for the chinchilla to explore, rather than be sat in a cage for its entire life, which could be up to 20 years, remember. Now, here's where I think the mistakes happen. Owners let the chinchillas out without making the areas chin safe. I have heard stories of people who let their chinchillas out in bathrooms, which actually is a great option as there's less wires for them to chew. But they leave the toilet seat up and the chinchilla jumps into the toilet bowl and gets soaked. Wherever you let your chinchilla out, make sure they have no access to electrical wires that they can chew on. Make sure that there are no cracks and holes that they can escape through. Make sure that the external doors are shut so the chinchilla can't escape outside. If you let them out in a bathroom, make sure the toilet seat is down and make sure that there's nowhere where they can accidentally fall into water. A really good option, if you want to let your chinchilla out of the cage, is to have a playpen. A child's playpen, a puppy playpen, a rabbit playpen. These are all good options, but always make sure you supervise your chinchilla when you have playtime. Never let your chinchilla out unsupervised. Number 4. Not having aircon for your chinchilla. In the US, I know it's far more common to have aircon in your property. However, in the UK, this is not something people generally have, because in reality, our summers are very short and basically blink and you miss them. So people overlook this essential item. We always have a few hot weeks, except last year where we had a heat wave for 3 months. And I see people on Facebook every year saying, how can I cool down my chinchilla? And they are attempting to use fans. Fans do absolutely nothing for a chinchilla. Now, chinchillas don't sweat and they have a huge fur coat, so a fan really does nothing for them. You can only properly cool down your chinchilla by cooling the actual air around them. You can buy portable aircon units anywhere from £150 to £300. Now, if you invested all that money in the animals, buying them a nice cage, please, please, please invest in an aircon unit. You'll save yourself so much worry over the summertime of cooling down your chinchilla. Number 5. Feeding chinchillas unsafe treats. This is a very subjective thing. People's opinions change from country to country. For example, in Germany, they're quite happy to feed a raw diet to chinchillas, whereas in the UK and the US, that's pretty much frowned upon and not agreed with. So this one's a bit subjective. However, general rule is nuts and seeds are far too fattening for them. Fresh fruit and veg are no good for them because they cannot digest them very well and it can give them really, really dodgy stomachs. Any dried fruit and veg, this includes things like raisins and apple, are a no-go as well because they have far too much sugar and they just cannot process it. The only exception is goji berries. These have far less sugar in them, but they are still to be fed sparingly. Things that you can give as treats is small amounts of rolled oats, plain shredded wheat. In the US you can have plain Cheerios. In the UK these are not suitable because they have added sugar. Some dried herbs and leaves are also good, and hay-based treats. The things like yogurt drops you see in the pet shops are not safe at all for chinchillas. Now, I've made this mistake myself. I used to feed my chinchillas raisins as treats because old care guides said that that is a good treat for them. However, research changes, opinions change, we get updated information, and basically you need to keep your research up to date. And basically they now think that these are no good for chinchillas, they're no good for their health. It's like giving your chinchilla sweets all the time, it's just no good. Thank you for watching. I hope that you found this information useful. If you like my channel, please subscribe. Thanks, and bye.